It goes through to my personal page as it's been, and then I'll put it on all platforms a bit later for you, Michelle. You can download it too at Vimeo if you want.
Terrific.
Um, okay, there we go. I got the clearance here. I'm just going to do a sound check. Are you hearing me loud and clear, Corey and Michelle?
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay, great. Well, folks, welcome to Veterans Day edition of Quantum Leap. And, first want to say in solidarity with our veterans, we honor them on this day. And we figured we took election day off, but we couldn't afford to take another holiday off. So we're back on Quantum Leap. And I have my co-host Cory Nod and his pet bird here. Corey, if you don't mind just telling us a little bit about your business and what kind of bird is that too? We want to find out.
Hi. So I'm Cory and I am co-founder of Take Wing Coaching, and I specifically offer coaching for business partners. I call myself the partners coach. So helping people have a great relationships in their business so they can have a great business. And this is Pasha. She is a green cheek conure and my office buddy, and a little bit rambunctious right now because she just had her nap. So her There's a nap about every hour, and then
Okay, great.
yeah.
And today we have a special guest, Michelle, who's going to be talking about marketing. And I'm going to let you fill in the bio, Michelle. She's also an author, but she comes from the corporate sector and really knows a lot about various things business and has helped a lot of people in our business networks make great strides on marketing from a mastermind kind of a collective that she does to help people, really accelerate their marketing. And that's I have a kind of we talk a lot about that on the show, Michelle, but I'll turn it over to you to just tell us a little bit about you, your story, and if you don't mind telling us about your book as well. I know we might drill down a little deeper, but I figure that's a good intro.
Absolutely. So my name is Michelle Walters. I am a Californian. I've been in California most of my life. I went into digital marketing as my sort of longest career. I got an MBA from University of Washington up in Seattle and found my way into the creative and advertising world. I had the joy, the pleasure of getting to work for a number of different advertising agencies and work on a lot of very big, you would know them kind of accounts like Schwab and Clorox and Google and a number of other businesses. And that unique background really set me up for where I am today. So in 2022, I decided to make a complete shift and stopped working for those great big companies in corporate digital marketing and opened up my own business as a hypnotherapist. I wanted to do this because I love thinking about how people think and finding ways to help them. And in the process of opening that small business, my eyes opened to a completely different market, that of the small business owner and what they need to know in order to promote their business and get clients. And so over the last couple of years, my practice has evolved. I now serve clients both in marketing, both personally as well as with a new app. And I also serve clients in marketing with a collective group that I do well, 3 times a month and private services. So that's oh, and I have a book, as you mentioned. Actually, I have two books. Let's see if I have them here. This book, The ABCs of Conscious Leadership, I published earlier this year. It's an ABC guide, like A is for authenticity, B is for brave, to different aspects of leadership. And my other book, which I don't seem to have my copy of right here, is called An Alignment of Spirit, Finding Work You Love. It's sort of a law of attraction book about manifesting a job. So that's
Okay.
me in a nutshell.
Okay, great. And I do feel like you come from our same school of marketing with all those tools that we really believe in on this show, the hypnotherapy, really the connection between marketing and leadership. And then, your knowledge of the corporate sector and that experience is hugely valuable too. So I'll just say that I think, a lot of people don't know that, you know, about 80% of businesses are actually small if you look at the numbers. So even though we have this kind of outsized corporate influence in our political process, most businesses are small businesses or solopreneurs. So it's great to see somebody, with your knowledge and skills serving them. And we're thankful to have you in our networking chapter, which people can actually come visit. Michelle and Cory and I on Wednesday morning. So I will contact us if you want to come join us sometime. What would you say makes you unique as a marketing coach in terms of how you work with people or maybe your process? I know you see some of the other people out there, and there's not really a lot of them serving small business, I'd say, to the extent that needs to be done, but just kind of where you are in the landscape there.
So, as a marketing coach, I have a huge heart for understanding kind of what the small business is faced with when it comes to marketing. There are too many hats to wear when you're a small business and just not enough time to be able to do things. And finding somebody to be able to help you learn, help you prioritize, help you decide what's right and wrong, and to be a little bit of a cheerleader, frankly, is a large part of what I see sets me apart as a marketing coach. I love getting into the weeds with my clients and understanding kind of where they're coming from and helping them figure out really, are they putting their attention in the right places? And what do they need to do to focus on that? For example, I had a one-to-one with a private marketing coaching client this week, and he had made some great edits to the to his website. And I said, "Okay, great. These are good. You could do a few more things here and there. By the way, how many people have visited your website this month?" No idea. No idea. Not even sure how to get that number. Well, I'm a big believer in I'm a big believer in spiritual forces and things you can't see, but I'm also a believer in numbers. And it is valuable to understand kind of where you're putting your effort and is it the right thing to do. You have very limited hours on earth and even more hours limited for your business. You got to put them in the right place.
Yeah, well, good point. And I do think those numbers really tell a big story, especially if you look at social media numbers too by platform, so you can really see where to focus. And, that's why it's hard to do everything yourself because I find a lot of small businesses have a lot of blind spots, so to speak, if you've never been taught or you got all these other balls in the air. So, how do you kind of think of all the things that, somebody like yourself when you're used to dealing with like the key metrics and things. Which brings me to my next question, which is actually a two-part question. I only gave you the first part, but I think you were already thinking of the second part about what are the biggest challenges that you see small businesses face with their marketing, and how can you begin to, address those with them?
I think the biggest challenge is knowing how to prioritize because there are 1,000 potential projects on the list, and you might have time for one or 1.5 of them, but 999 of them are going to have to move aside for the time being. And how do you pick the one or one and a half, two things that you're going to work on this particular week? I think an awful lot of people and small businesses sometimes overestimate their ability and know-how about marketing and can waste a lot of time putting energy into directions that are unproductive. I mean, for example, the fellow I just mentioned, if one person visits your website a month, is it worthy of spending 20 hours to fix it? It might be better to use those 20 hours doing something else or to find more effective ways to drive traffic so that that website is seen by more people.
Yeah, yeah, no, well put. And we actually have an expert coming on next week who's going to talk about scheduling. So I think you're going to find that interesting because I know, Corey brings that up a lot, and him and Gail are also great as a business coach at helping people prioritize because that really is what it is all about as a small business owner, how to prioritize what works. But I'm going to turn it over to Corey if he has any comments and for the second part of the interview.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, well, marketing is always challenging and there's so many things out there to do. So it's like to say, just, take one step at a time. And I think a lot of people who get into small business don't like working for the boss. They like changing up things. And I have a lot of thoughts on, so many of us are neurodivergent, right? So the ADHD kind of drives us to go one step or the other. And I was just watching a video of a woman who actually tethered herself to her dishwasher because she kept walking away while emptying the dishes and would pull her back. And it's like, all right, well, there's an option. Sometimes we have to tether ourselves to our marketing plans. Um, so,
A great image.
yeah, I'll send you the video. It's hilarious. Um, most of us were like, well, probably just break the washing machine, but okay. Um, so one of the things we talk about is the why, kind of like what drives us or motivates us to do what we do. Well, what would you say is your why?
I love understanding how people think. I just always have. I've
But
found this a fascinating topic, I don't know, since college or just after college. I worked for a management consulting company called Strategic Decisions Group, and one of the things that we used to do was put on these webinars to help, or they were not webinars, they were seminars, they were meetings back in the early 90s, to teach important decision makers like CEOs, CFO kind of people at organizations about cognitive biases and what makes people think and how do you be persuasive and how do you get lots of people with lots of different opinions to come together and make a decision. And I think that that foundation really colored a lot of where I've taken my personal and professional life just in terms of interests. I am fascinated by how people make decisions and how to help them make better decisions because there's a lot of pitfalls in the way humans are wired and the way we make decisions. And if you know what those things are, you can do a much better job of steering yourself to making better decisions and choosing things that serve you and taking care of the most important needs as opposed to the ones that sound fun to work on today. And maybe avoiding tethering yourself to your dishwasher.
yeah, um, yeah, I have some philosophy behind that I've been thinking about. So what are some of the biggest mistakes you see small business? Well, actually, you kind of asked that question already. What are the biggest challenges? But what are the mistakes? Let's just focus on mistakes. Give us an example.
I think it is so easy to make mistakes out there. I caught myself making a mistake last week. I accidentally thought it would be a good idea to post a link on one website that would send traffic to another website and create more authority for the second website. And the way I did it, it wasn't achieving that goal. Well, even me as a digital marketer, to realize that like I've been in this business for over 20 years. Like it is very easy to think that what you are doing is working towards accomplishing your objectives, but just a little thing in the wrong place or a little not knowing about how something works, and you can trip or defeat yourself or make something completely, completely irrelevant. I think, honestly, if I had to sort of say one of the biggest mistakes is that I think a lot of small business people have no education or understanding about how to measure what they're doing.
Yeah,
And if if many small businesses had a better idea of how to measure and how to see the evidence that what they were doing was either working in working in alignment with their goals or neutral or negative, it would it would cause a lot of people to start and stop doing different things and things that would probably be much better for their businesses.
right. What was I going to say about that? Oh yeah, yeah. It's easy to waste a lot of time doing things that don't work. And I think a big problem too is people don't really necessarily know their target market, or they do these wide nets. The challenge I have in my business is figuring out where is my market sometimes, because it's like, are they on LinkedIn where, new business owners often aren't on LinkedIn, or they use that more as a career page. Are they on Facebook? Are they Instagram? Is There's so many different options, and each one has a different, market for the way people think about things.
And a different way that you need to talk to them.
Right, right.
Right? If you
Yeah,
send a communication on Instagram, that's probably a completely different tone than if you're reaching out to somebody on their LinkedIn page.
right,
So
right.
it's I mean, I love the diversity and the opportunities, but it has really gotten to a point of um intense complexity.
Yeah, yeah. And again, like, a lot of people don't really necessarily know how their market thinks, or they have too many different markets, and that just makes it even harder. So who is your ideal client?
The client that I'm looking for in the marketing space right now is a small business. I'm actually looking for both kind of solopreneurs as well as folks with small companies, so that I can help them with their strategic plan, their education, and potentially even their incorporation of AI. I've had a lot of joy and learning and some heartfelt experience this year building an app which leverages AI. And while I think we're looking at a lot of, the big headlines are about the big companies and what's going on with their employee ranks with AI, but AI has the potential to be a tremendous friend and
Right,
new coworker for the small business owner who is looking for some help. That being said, it's worthy of understanding what information is public and what's not public, and what you should trust and what you shouldn't trust, and how do you verify results. There's a lot of stuff there, but I would be happy to also have a call with small businesses who perhaps have an inquiry about whether or not there's an opportunity to incorporate AI somewhere in their business.
Yeah, and since we have a little bit of time, I wanted to just see if you wouldn't mind sharing an anecdote or two out of your book about the ABCs of conscious leadership, just to give folks an idea what they might find in that book.
So I'm happy to. So my ABCs of conscious leadership is literally an ABC book. There's 26 chapters of letters and a chapter at the beginning and a chapter at the end. And for each letter, I go through and talk about a trait that a conscious leader has that starts with that letter. I tell a personal story. I tell a story about a famous person who you might know or maybe you don't know. And actually, they're not all people, just to be clear, who represents that trait. So, for example, the chapter for A talks about authenticity. And I tell a story about some work I was doing a year or two ago. I was putting together some programs and support for people who wanted to stop overeating sugar and stop drinking too much. And I realized that if I was going to be authentic in my work, I should stop overeating sugar and stop drinking so much. And so that was important as I put together sort of those materials and supported my clients in those ways. The that's the personal story. The famous person that I talk about as being very authentic is Abraham Lincoln, because A and Abraham all goes together. And we got lots of stories about Honest Abe that I share in the book. And then for each chapter, I also include a little affirmation at the end. So the book goes like that for B and C and D and all the way to the end of Z, which people wonder who I picked for Z, but it will make sense when you read it. And so if you're looking for maybe something to help you focus on leadership, sort of upgrade your leadership a little bit, but you want to read about it in a fun and very approachable way, it's a great book because you don't have to read it cover to cover. You could just decide to read any particular letter on any particular day, and it would be a few pages of good stories and helpful wisdom.
Great, well put. And I know I've studied leadership some and thought about how it's taught, in some of my uh, musings and this podcast, and I always find it really takes some creative ways to get those points across. I love that about the stories that stick in your mind because that's really a great way to do it. But also qualities, I do find like principles or qualities, or as you say, like characteristics or whatever they may be in your book, are also a great thing to highlight in leaders. So well, she does have the bit.ly there. If there's any other links you want me to include, I'll put your website link, maybe your LinkedIn, how to find your book. And we'd love to have you back at some point to revisit some of these issues, maybe scope out some additional ones for the future. But thanks for coming on to share your insights, Michelle.
Thank you so much, David and Cory. It was a pleasure being here today.
Well, great. Well, Corey, did you have any closing remarks? Otherwise, we're going to sign off
Yes,
here.
thank you for being here. Good to see you, Michelle.
Nice to see
Tomorrow.
you.
All right.
Yes, exactly.
Sounds good. Well, thanks for joining us, everyone. We'll see you soon.